I can only assume what the reception is going to be to what I titled this video. If there is any reception at all, we'll see. I assure you right from the get-go, from all sides, all parts, all types, this is not going to be what you expect. I'm not going to go around making fun of people who hate Christianity. This is not a hit piece or like a, smack back against, anti-theologians or whatever. That's not what I'm here to do. So I just want to clear that up right out of the way from the get-go. Hi, everybody. It's fucking cold here. It's freezing. We are currently experiencing negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit wind gusts where I live. And so as such, I've been, kind of curled up in my apartment for a good while, really having nothing else to do, and ended up just kind of perusing the internet over the last day or two. When I'm not working, not really a ton to do going on out there. And I've kind of started to run into an interesting side of my social media, of my TikTok, of my Twitter. And it's starting to remind me really why I don't, I have a whole video on why I hate social media and why I've really been trying to dial back my usage. But it really does pertain to faith and belief. And it's actually extremely disturbing as a believer to watch where an algorithm takes me. I wanted to kind of talk about that in the context of the actual, Bible itself versus how quote unquote Christians online are acting, just in their day to day and in their postings. And I just wanted to offer some encouragement too for those that might be new to the faith or who are maybe non-believers but see this and go, oh God, are they all like that? I assure you, we are not. I just wanted to kind of talk about that because this has been extremely frustrating for me to witness over the last few days. The first thing that I saw that kind of made me want to talk about this, I'll include the clip of the video here.
He never answered any of my prayers. Have I ever read the Bible? No. Oh, but I did have Sunday school, so I knew the stories. The church really traumatized me. I had to go to Sunday school every Sunday. I wasn't allowed to skip. It was a cult I was forced into and trapped in, so I chose to leave. And they would make us sit there in these pews for an hour. I would say I was sick and these people would just be like, oh, I'll pray for you. What? You can't be smart and a Christian. It's impossible. I don't like Christianity and you're a Christian, so you ruined my life. I would go to these horrible summer camps where they would have me swim and go to church and sing songs. It was just too much. Because if God made everything, who made God? Checkmate. They would have people pay 10% of their income so they could keep the lights on and pay the water bill and pay the pastors. That's ridiculous. That's not a sin. I know that because I went to church growing up. That's not a sin. I never read the Bible, but that's not.
This is an example. There are tons of videos. You can literally just look up like Christian talk or whatever on your TikTok or Instagram Reels or wherever you watch your videos and short form content, or Twitter. I mean, Twitter's full of them too. Basically and especially Facebook as well. Actually, now that I think about it, Facebook probably is the worst, although I haven't touched Facebook since I tried to sell my Corvette. So not really, don't really frequent that place too much. This is not meant to be a specific call out to this creator. I'm not trying to cause problems or incite anything, but rather I'm using this kind of as a springboard because I assure you there is plenty worse content out there trying to portray themselves as Christian and coming off just very gross and hateful and angry and spiteful. But this video in particular came to mind because I kind of sat on it for a minute. And I distinctly remember, this was like not long after I had prayed earlier in the day. And I distinctly remember feeling just off about watching this. I was very uncomfortable. Just something about it just kind of pushed me the wrong way. And so I feel like there needs to be some sort of discussion about how believers behave on the internet. Especially if we want to represent Christ to other people, which is our job. If you are a believer, that's what you're called to do. You're called to love like he did. we can't really be accepting this kind of behavior. This is not Christ-like in the slightest. And let me kind of just give you a little breakdown of why this kind of tipped me the wrong way a little bit. I understand it's commonplace on the internet to try and counteract with the same energy as what you're perceived to be receiving. And a lot of Christians like to fantasize or pretend that somebody on Reddit telling them that God isn't real is the equivalent of a hate crime. And or being told like, oh, I left the church because, you know, churches are corrupt is some sort of like slur. I want to start out by saying it's not. Being told that your belief in God is fake is fine. You'll survive. In fact, it's healthy to have conversations about stuff like that. Being told that somebody left the church is not going to kill you. They're not going to, cause you to lose your salvation. It's not like the end of the world if somebody decides, hey, you know, this religion thing, it's not really for me. Or if they see corruption in the church, rightfully so, and go, oh, well, I don't really like that, and I can't really trust an institute that does that, so I'm going to leave. This entire video just completely abandons that premise and becomes very Reddit-y in the respect. It's just, it felt like something I would see on Reddit personified into a video on TikTok. And I can't shake the feeling that there is some sort of pent-up anger and aggression behind this. Maybe something personal that this creator experienced, where maybe a friend left the church or something similar. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We have been given free will for a purpose, right? And part of that free will means that we are able to make the choice to leave the faith, the church, whatever we see fit, whatever we feel is necessary. God will chase after us, but he doesn't force us. That's like a core tenet of Christianity. And while that, you know, it might break our hearts to see people turn away and leave. Of course, for me, it does. I hate to see people feel like they've been betrayed. It hurts me to think that they have experienced some form of pain inflicted by people who claim to be of God. I don't like to see that happen, but I don't try and bully them into staying. I'm not going to try and turn it into something it's not. This isn't, they're not punching bags for trying to leave. This TikTok very clearly is loaded with so many implications, implying that whoever is deconstructing is stupid. I mean, the tone of voice just gives that away immediately. It's very like fifth grader mocking type, filled with stereotypes, like the idea that all religious trauma is just being forced to go to church. I mean, that's just inherently short-sighted and incorrect. People deconstruct from genuine religious trauma constantly. There are people that abuse the gospel when they raise their children, or when they, you know, are in a church and use it to belittle, berate, and dismantle others while feeling better about themselves. And that can even extend to other things. Religious trauma can stem from genuine issues within a church as well. Sexual assault that pastors and priests commit on the pupils of the church is a legitimate reason for deconstruction and a legitimate source of religious trauma. Stuff like that can create actual problems for people throughout the rest of their lives and can result in them never returning to a faith or a church of any sort. And here you are, shrinking it into, oh, I didn't like to sit in the pews for an hour. Which, by the way, is also a lie. If you're a Protestant, you go to an actual Protestant church, typically services are an hour and a half to hour 45. But regardless, like belittling somebody's story, like somebody out there has genuine religious trauma. Plenty of people do. Trying to cram them all into this camp of, oh, I just didn't want to go to church, but my parents made me, is intentionally short-sighted, rude, and exclusionary. Which all three are things that Jesus tells us not to do. Acting like walking away from church is something to point and laugh at, like this is some kind of joke, like you should feel better that you stayed in the church than they do because they left. My sister in Christ, you walk away from God every single day. You're the sheep that he chases because you keep running away. Believing in him doesn't change that. You are a sinner through and through. Somebody who makes choices that draws you further away from him every single day, despite making the effort and despite knowing that it's bad for you, you still do it. Your flesh still guides you away. And yet here you are, pointing at somebody else who might have a legitimate reason as to why they don't trust a church anymore or feel excluded for some other purpose. And here you are stoking the flames to make it worse. And the comments are awful as well. All you see is just, man, these people are so goofy, man, you know, like, oh, religious trauma, and it's just them sitting in church for an hour. Oh, imagine. I'm actually shaking right now. It's genuinely actually making me angry again because I'm thinking about it. And I'm gonna have to watch the video again when I stitch it in there. Again, I want to make it very clear. I'm not trying to attack, like re-attack. That's not what I'm doing here. But what I am doing is I'm denoting and I'm putting an asterisk on this behavior. This is not Christ-like. This is her sinful nature coming into view. This is her giving in to the desires of her flesh to create a video like this to feel better about herself because she's witnessing people leave the church. When we see people deconstructing, rather than pointing and laughing, rather than feeling this, you know, urge to make fun of them, to reduce their experiences down into this empty, meaningless box of, oh, well, you must not have liked Sunday school then. You must not have liked going to church. You must have never read the Bible. You must have no experience. That behavior needs to change. Okay, this is not acceptable Christ-like behavior to those who are in our church. I'm not casting judgment. I'm not saying that this is, you know, dooming you to eternity and damnation. It's not how this works, right? But when you become a Christian, a big part of what you're supposed to do is to align yourself with Jesus himself, with his teachings. There's very, very good documentation. There's 4 books of it, actually, on how he behaved around people, especially people that turned away from him. The first thing that came to my mind was the story of the young rich man who came to Jesus and asked him, you know, what do I need to do to get to the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus goes through the commandments: love your father and mother, you know, love other people, you know, don't kill, don't steal, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, yeah, I've already done all of that. But like, seriously, what else do I need to do? And Jesus looks at me and goes, you really want to know? Give up all your possessions and come follow me. Give everything away to the poor and come be with me. Because he knew that was the challenge. That man valued his possessions over everything else in the world. He knew that was going to be a challenge. The man walked away and did not give anything away. He was crestfallen because he felt like he couldn't part with his possessions. Did Jesus then point and laugh at the guy? Go, this idiot, this guy couldn't give up his stuff. Oh, get a load of this guy. He's going to hell. He's a failure. Oh my God, so stupid and dumb. He talked to me instead. No. Jesus let him go on his way and moved on to the next thing. God will chase you, sure. His love always follows you. His love will always be there. But it doesn't mean he forces you to be a part of something that you do not feel it in your heart to be a part of. If you choose to separate away, even if it's not for a legitimate reason, that doesn't mean that God's going to force you to come back. He's not going to make a mockery of you just because you decided to step away. That's not what he does. We have a direct example of that happening in the Bible, and that is what you should be listening to. I also want to take a second to read Matthew chapter 7, particularly the first chunk here. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, starting with, I am reading the NIV translation. There's plenty of other good ones, but just for a brief understanding, it says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and the measure you use, it will be measured against you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Do not give to dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. I also want to go down a little bit further. We're going to skip to verse 21 here. It says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not perform prophecy in your name? And in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. So the first part's pretty self-explanatory. Don't judge others, because whatever you use to judge will also be used against you. You walk around half blind, picking out other people's vision problems. You're going to look like an idiot, right? At the end of the day, again, like I said, to this girl and every Christian content creator who does stuff like this, at the end of the day, you're a sinner as well. You are just as bad as the people who walk away from the church. And I would argue, if not slightly worse, because as a Christian, you should know better. You shouldn't be making more of an effort to fight against your flesh. Your failures are more obvious and greater to deal with than those who don't know, right? So stop holding them to this standard when you yourself are not holding yourself to that same standard. You fall short every single day, and that needs to be taken into account. My other favorite thing is here, I actually really enjoy it, is verse 6 here. Do not give to dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. An old pastor of mine, when we went over this verse, interpreted this as, don't force sacredness and holiness in the spaces where it will be destroyed. Offer it when there's openness, but don't try and force the key into the door when the key won't go in. He's essentially saying, you know, the pearls are holiness, are sacredness, are God's love. It's the concept. The pearl is the gospel, essentially. The pigs and the dogs are, you know, sinners, us, all of us. Pigs and dogs can be cute and timid and playful and open, but they can also be ravenous and wild and angry. He's like, would you throw a pearl, a valuable, precious gemstone, to a giant horde of feral pigs? Probably not. There's a time and a place to give the gospel to others. And to those who don't want to hear it or have heard it and want to stay away from it, why would you bother trying to force it? Because at the end of the day, it's going to get mocked and destroyed. You're going to get hurt, and they're going to get hurt. There's no point. Don't try and force something that isn't there. People need to have an open heart in order to have Jesus come in. He knocks at the door. He doesn't break in. Revelations 3:20 says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If you let me in, I will come in and we will share a meal. It doesn't say, I'm going to break down your door in the middle of the night. You know, Jesus isn't a burglar. He's a human being. So let's remember, you know, you can look down at people for deconstructing. You can look down at people for a lack of faith. You can look down at people for believing something different than you or having legitimate reasons for walking away. And then at the end times, you're going to have that same measuring stick held up against you. There are going to be people who will proclaim the gospel, proclaim the word of God, and at the end times, Jesus is going to look at them and say, who the fuck are you? I don't know who you are. Depart from me. Go away. And again, I'm a universalist, so again, the permanence of that is obviously, you know, however you want to interpret it. But at the end of the day, right, the fear of looking at the man you supposedly worshipped your whole life in the face and having him say, I don't know who you are. Go away. I think that's enough of a motivator to reevaluate all your sins and behaviors and try and align yourself more with what Christ had done. Let's stop mocking people for their struggles. Let's stop feeling superior over other people for what they're going through. I had a whole video on this outside of religion about humility and why, you know, thinking that you're better than the drug addict on the street or, you know, somebody who's struggling with alcohol addiction or somebody who's unemployed, is fruitless, is an empty venture that will never lead to your happiness and it will essentially just do more damage than good. I had a whole video on that, and it's completely secular. It has nothing to do with faith. But now I'm applying faith to it, and it becomes doubly clear. You should not feel better than the person next to you just because you believe in God. You should not feel better than the person next to you just because you go to church every Sunday, just because you run a Bible study, just because you volunteer sometimes on the weekends. That's not enough. Your job as a Christian is not to feel better than other people, but to serve other people. Your job is not to stand on a pedestal and preach, but to get on your knees and wash their feet. You are a servant of the Lord, not a warrior, and you need to start acting like it. Anyways, again, like I said, this is not a personal call out. I'm not trying to start something. I'm far too employed for internet drama. So there I go, comparing it. Yep. See, hypocrite, whatever. But I don't want to create problems where there are none. I have nothing personal against anybody, any Christian creators, apart from the ones who are actually just kind of racist and really mean. I don't think they're actually Christians in that regard. So that's a whole different thing. But, she's not the problem. I want to make that very clear. But this is an indicator of a greater problem as a whole within the faith. And my neighbors are stomping around upstairs again. Lord, give me patience. And I want to just clarify that again. I hold nothing against her. Again, I can't judge because, the measuring stick is going to be used against me. I've been hypocritical. I've been holier than thou. And a lot of the time when I was an atheist, actually, that was my entire personality trait, was I thought I was better than everybody. So it's frustrating when I see it come out in people that should be loving and accepting and praying for, those who suffer, rather than pointing and mocking and reducing. We're called to turn the other cheek, even if you perceive these deconstructed people as being rude to you, as being unnecessarily harsh to your religion. Your job is not to fight back. You are not God's soldier. God can fight his own battles. He's infinitely powerful, right? So our job is not to clap back, use the internet as an opportunity to score some points. Our job is to take it on the pray for them, and move on. So that's all. That's all I really wanted to talk about. She was more just kind of an example, and there's plenty of, again, like I said, there's plenty of it out there. So if you're curious, go ahead and search up Christian TikToks or whatever. You're going to see a lot of what I'm talking about. Let's start these conversations. Let's, start bringing the gospel to these people, and let's have them reevaluate their behavior. Because, your job is to love like Christ. Your job is not to be a Pharisee. Your job is to be a Christian. So let's start encouraging that behavior from each other as believers. And if there's a non-believer listening this far in, hey, you're awesome. Thanks for putting up with me talking for, oh my God, 20 minutes. Jesus. For 20 minutes. Yeah, we'll be returning to some gaming content soon. I've got some stuff in the back pocket. Me and my friends have started playing Tabletop Simulator together for some board games and whatnot. So that will be coming soon. I'm hoping to finish out the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. I got a promotion at work, so things are a little bit hectic right now. I've got some new responsibilities I'm trying to balance out. Working in the tech industry is hard. So I'm just going to be focusing on that for a little bit. Once I get that more balanced out, some new uploads will follow. So I appreciate everybody's patience with me, and yeah, I hope you guys have had a good start to your 2026. I pray for the best for all of you. Let's encourage some good behavior from each other. And for this weekend in particular, those of you who are in the Band of Snow, keep yourselves safe. Stay at home if you need to. Make sure you stock up on what you need, and bundle, because it's going to get cold out there. So let's get ready. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate y'all. See you around.